Hello friends and foes of Middle-earth and welcome back. Today is exactly 1 year ago that I started this channel, and if you have been here since the beginning, you'll know that the first name of the channel was actually Council of Gondor. So I think it's the perfect topic to cover today. I picked the name as it fits my other channel's name, Macbeth of Gondor. It's a channel mainly about the Lord of the Rings mod Kingdoms of Arnor, but I haven't been very active on it for quite some time. I will get back to it eventually though, so don't worry if you follow that channel as well. But let's talk about the Council of Gondor. You see, there were two other reasons I picked this name. First off, this channel is a council of Tolkien fans that like to get together, discuss and learn not only about Tolkien and Middle-earth, but pretty much anything related to it. It's been a wild year, and sadly the Rings of Power have been taking a lot of time and energy, which also means that I hope to get back to actual lore and discuss that again. The third reason I picked the name Council of Gondor is the same as why we're covering the topic today. It's a fine little piece of lore, often overlooked, but the Council of Gondor did in a way determine the fate and future of Middle-earth. So let's dive into it. The Council of Gondor consisted of many notables in Gondor. I've split them into three categories, so before we discuss the purpose of the council, we should get an idea who were part of it. There were the captains of the forces of Gondor. It's uncertain which titles were in use during the War of the Ring, and if they were indeed members of the council. We know that Boromir held the title Captain General, and also the title High Warden of the White Tower, as Faramir tells Frodo in The Two Towers. And the latter title seems to have passed to Faramir after the death of Boromir. So based on those two titles, it's likely that Boromir would have been part of the council. Early in Gondor's history, Prince Eärnur held the title Captain of Gondor when he fought against the forces of Angmar in 1975 of the Third Age. This title was also held by Faramir during the War of the Ring, as leader of the Rangers of Ithilien. The title also seems to have been in use during the reign of Underhair, but if it were titles given in times of need is unknown. But as we know, the military power of Gondor relied heavily on its naval supremacy, and also here the title seems to have changed name through the history of the kingdom. In 830 of the Third Age, Taranon held the title Captain of the Hosts. He greatly expanded the fleets of Gondor, and became known as the first ship king of Gondor. These fleets were usually based at Pelargir or Umbar back then. And later Castamir held the title Captain of Ships. He used his position to gain influence and strength to usurp the throne. It's very likely that there will still be a Captain of Ships during the War of the Ring, though whoever held it didn't play a vital role in the war. It's even possible that Aragorn held the title shortly, as he served in Gondor under the name Thorongil. As Thorongil, he led a Gondorian naval force in a raid on Umbar, known as the surprise attack on Umbar in 2980 of the Third Age. The forces of Gondor prevailed, and it neutralized the Corsairs' naval power for decades, and reduced the southern pressure on Gondor at a time when its power was waning. So from all this, it's fair to conclude that during the War of the Ring, there were at least two captains, Boromir as Captain General and Faramir as Captain of Gondor. Faramir might have gained his titles after Boromir departed for Rivendell, but we can only guess here. It's also possible that none of them were part of the council, but the law seems to indicate that people with the rank would normally have been part of the council. And at the same time, there were the Captain of Ships, whose identity remains unknown. He likely operated from Pelargir, where the main fleet of Gondor were based during the war. Other than the captains, the council also consisted of Lords of the Thieves. During the War of the Ring, it must have been Prince Imrahil of Dol Amroth, the 22nd Prince, Borlong of Lossarnach, an unknown Lord of Lebanon, I would suspect. Lebanon did not send men to aid Minas Tirith before the siege. This was likely because the fief was under attack by the Corsairs. If I had to guess, this lord would be the most likely candidate to hold the title Captain of Ships. Angbor the Fearless, Lord of Lamedon, the unnamed Lord of Ringlow Vale, he sent his son Deverin and 300 men to the aid of Minas Tirith. Lord Duinhir of Blackroot Vale, Golaskil of Anfalas, possibly Hirluin the Fair of the Green Hills, though it's not said he was a lord, and possibly a Lord of Anorion, if there were one. Hurin the Tall, Warden of the Keys, were also referred to as Lord Hurin, so it's possible he might have been a part of the council as well, which also brings us to the last category, advisors to the kings and later the ruling stewards. The stewards were also part of the council while the king still ruled. Like we know, Pelendur took part in the council after the death of King Underhair. While the king still ruled Gondor, the council played a vital role in the kingdom, The king governed Gondor with the frame of ancient laws of Númenor that had survived the downfall. The king was administrator and interpreter, but he was not the lawmaker. That part fell on the council. The kings consulted the council in debatable matters of importance, both domestic or external. This would also cover military matters, and the council likely played a vital role in the expansion of Gondor's territory during the rule of some of the major kings that expanded the borders of Gondor both east and south. During the War of the Ring, Denethor held council and at least listened to what the lords of the fiefs and the captains of the forces had to say, as Tolkien explains in one of his letters. We know of one of these councils from the Lord of the Rings. As the siege of Gondor approached, Denethor called the council together on the 11th of March, 3019, and the council advised him to make no stroke of war against the enemy due to the threat from the south. In 1944 of the Third Age, King Ondohir and his two sons Artemi and Faramir had fallen in the battle known as the Disaster of the Morannon. Likewise, the king's nephew Minotaur had been slain by an arrow during the same war. The captain of the Southern Army, Eärnil, had defeated the Wing Riders and was very popular in Gondor. The council took authority over the realm after the death of the king and his heir. It acted under the control of Stuart Pelendur, father to Borondil, who would create the Horn of Gondor, later carried by Boromir. The council had to determine a new heir to the throne, and many looked at Eärnil as the most obvious candidate. Not only was he popular, he was also a descendant of Archaius, brother of King Narmakil II. The following year, in 1945, Arvedui of Arthedain, whose wife was Firiel, Ondohir's daughter, invoked the laws of succession in Númenor to claim the throne of Gondor. Arvedui claimed the kingship of Gondor, both as a direct descendant of Isildur, whom Arvedui said had never relinquished his royalty in Gondor, and secondly, as the husband of Firiel, who under old Númenorian law should have become the first ruling queen after the death of her two brothers. If the council voted for this, the kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor would be reunited, but it would most likely also mean that the power of the council members would lessen. The Council of Gondor answered, "The crown and royalty of Gondor belongs solely to the heirs of Meneldir, son of Anarion, to whom Isildur relinquished this realm. In Gondor this heritage is reckoned through the sons only, and we have not heard that the law is otherwise in Arnor." To this Arvedui replied, "Elendil had two sons, of whom Isildur was the elder and the heir of his father. We have heard that the name Elendil stands to this day as the head of the line of kings of Gondor, since he was accounted the high king of all the lands of the Dunedain. While Elendil still lived, the conjoined rule in the south was committed to his sons, but when Elendil fell, Isildur departed to take up the high kingship of his father, and committed the rule in the south, in like manner, to the son of his brother. He did not relinquish his royalty in Gondor, nor intend that the realm of Elendil should be divided forever. Moreover, in Númenor of old, the scepter descended to the eldest child of the king, whether man or woman. It is true that the law has not been observed in the lands of exile ever troubled by war, but such was the law of our people, to which we now refer, seeing that the sons of Ondohir died childless." To this Gondor made no answer. The crown was granted to the victorious general Eärnil, and it was granted to him with the approval of all the Dunedain in Gondor. Since he was of the royal house, he was the son of Seriandil, son of Kalimakil, son of Archaius, brother of King Narmakil II. Arvedui did not press his claim, for he had neither the power nor the will to oppose the choice of the Dunedain of Gondor. Yet the claim was never forgotten by his descendants, even when their kingship had passed away, a claim that Aragorn much later would make use of. Eärnil was a wise man, and not arrogant, even if, as to most men in Gondor, the realm in Arthedain seemed a small thing for all the lineage of its lords. He sent messages to Arvedui, announcing that he received the crown of Gondor according to the laws and the needs of the South Kingdom. "But I do not forget the loyalty of Arnor, nor deny our kinship, nor wish that the realms of Elendil should be estranged. I will send to you aid when you have need, so far as I am able." So this decision of the council meant that Arnor and Gondor were not reunited, and as you know, Arnor fell under Arvedui's rule, and the line of kings were broken in Gondor under Eärnil's son, Eärnur, that was challenged by the Witch King. He rode to Minas Morgul and was never seen again. Thus began the rule of the Stuarts in Gondor. So as you can see, the council played a key role in the history of Middle-earth. It's fun to imagine what would have happened if they had accepted the rule of Arvidui. The Reunited Kingdom would no doubt have been stronger, and likely able to withstand the Witch King in the north, possibly destroying Angmar. Maybe Eminius Ethil wouldn't have fallen to the Nazgul either. We know that Arvidui and Firiel's son, Aranarth, would have been the new king of the Reunited Kingdoms, but we can only guess what would have happened. Maybe a new civil war would have begun in Gondor. Aranarth had at least one younger brother, so perhaps the kingdom would split up, like it happened in Arnor after the death of Earendur. It's hard to know, but it's interesting to think about. If you want to know more about the fall of Arnor and how the kingdom split into three, feel free to check out this video next. Part 3 of this miniseries will also feature the Council of Gondor, as you can imagine. When Aragorn became king of the Reunited Kingdom, he re-established the Great Council of Gondor. It's unknown if this council had been dissolved after the death of Isildur or after the death of Eärnur, the last king of Gondor. In that council, Faramir remained by inheritance the steward and was also appointed Prince of Ithilien, second in nobility after the princes of Dol Amroth. He would be the chief councillor, and in the absence of the king, he would be his representative. This would apply if the king was abroad, sick, and between the king's death and the accession of his heir. So truly a position of high honour. There were also a council in Arnor, and in the year 13 of the Fourth Age, Aragorn established the title Council of the North Kingdom, with representatives from the people of the Shire and Buckland. These councillors were those appointed to the positions of the Thane, Mayor of the Shire, and the Master of Buckland. At the time of their appointment, these offices were held by Peregrine Took, Samwise Gamgee, and Meriadoc Brandybok, respectively. They would remain in these posts for nearly 50 years, until 4th Age 61, when Sam Gamgee was said to have passed over the sea to the Undying Lands. 2 years later, Merry and Pippin resigned their offices to their sons and removed to the south. It is unknown if they were succeeded as councillors by their heirs, but it's possible. This would mean Pippin's son Faramir would inherit the title, along with the title of Thane. We sadly don't know the name of Merry's son, but he would become the next Master of Buckland, and possibly also hold the title as Councillor of the North Kingdom. And that's all there is to say about the Council of Gondor. I hope you enjoyed this little special on the channel. It's hard to believe it's already been a whole year. I've achieved more than I hoped for, so thank you guys for that. But at the same time, there are so many videos planned, so I hope you'll stick around as we continue to grow our council. Tell your friends and family about the channel, and let's discover the lore of Middle-earth together. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, you can use the super thanks function or become a member today. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you haven't watched the Fall of Arnor series, you should. It doesn't only cover the history of Arnor, but also a lot of history about hobbits, so check it out. Farewell till next time.